Amazing twist. Millionaire's Mandarin revealed hidden talent of the Black Maid in perfect Chinese. Clara stood amidst the glimmering chandeliers of the Chun family's grand atrium, her heart tight in her chest. For over a decade, the opulence around her had felt like a shimmering cage. Each polished surface reflected the beauty of a life she served but couldn't touch. Today, the air was thick with tension. A monumental deal hung in the balance, and Clara stood silently, a ghost in the gleaming marble tide. Mr. Chun was pacing, his face set in a mask of concentration laced with worry. A critical negotiation with a leading Chinese firm was about to take place. It could mean everything for him and his company. Yet, as the family gathered, it became painfully clear. A language barrier threatened to shatter their aspirations. Clara watched as Mr. Chun gestured angrily, words tumbling out with urgency. But the responses from the visiting delegates were stilted and vague. The weight of impending failure dragged at Clara's stomach, each moment feeling heavier than the last. In that split second, she faced her own haunting dilemma. How could she disrupt their polished world? What right did the maid have to interject into their privileged affairs? Clara recalled her mother's voice, the warmth of taught Mandarin that hung in the air like incense. Could she bridge that chasm? The memories wanted to be let out, yet fear coiled inside her, fear of judgment, fear of overstepping, fear of being seen. Before Clara could decide, the room swelled with frustration. Tension crackled, eyes darted between Mr. Chun and the delegates, and Clara felt a hollowness settle deep in her chest. She was an invisible witness to their struggles, a shadow in their spotlight. Yet, the idea of stepping forward remained a blaring siren in her mind. What if her voice could change everything? What if, after all these years, she could finally be more than a maid? Clara, what if I could help? The sudden thought startled her as it echoed off the walls in a desperate whisper. She imagined herself speaking, the words flowing like water. It rang with promise, yet it was so far from what she had ever dared to hope for. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the weight of the moment felt unbearable, Clara's breath caught sharply in her throat. She could sense it, the shift in energy, as if the building itself held its breath. The urgency around her bubbled up into a deafening roar, drowning out her fears just long enough for her heart to compel her forward. What if she spoke? What if she shattered the unspoken rules binding her to silence? Before she could second-guess herself, Clara took a step, her pulse racing like a runaway train. Mr. Chun. The words formed in her mind. She swallowed, resolute. Yet, just as she opened her mouth, a familiar voice cut through, laced with surprise and something softer. Clara, I had no idea. There is so much more to you than I thought. Clara spun around, uncertainty gripping her. What lay ahead felt like a tempest of emotions, a riptide pulling her deeper into unknown waters. Could this be the moment she had longed for, or the one that would pull her under completely? As she stood teetering at the edge of revelation, the choice loomed, heavy yet hopeful, and thick with the promise of becoming. The air was electric. Clara felt it pulse through her veins as she processed the voice that had reached her. It wasn't just any voice. It was Lily, Mr. Chun's youngest daughter, who often slipped into a more genuine persona behind the polished veneer of her family name. What did she mean by that? Clara couldn't help but wonder. A knot lodged in her throat as she turned towards Lily, who stood among the chorus of suited men with an expression that mixed admiration and surprise. Uncharacteristically composed, Lily beckoned her with a nod, as if she could see the potential smoldering beneath Clara's surface. The lingering shadows of her doubts hovered at the edges of her consciousness, but the flutter of possibility urged her forward. Clara, please, if you know Mandarin, it could change everything. Lily's eyes glistened with urgency. Clara felt the tide of intense emotions rush over her, a mixture of fear and excitement that fueled the fire of her resolve. Mr. Chun halted mid-gesture, his frustrated focus wavering as he turned toward the unexpected thaw in the atmosphere. "Is that true?" he asked incredulously, scanning Clara's face for confirmation. In that heartbeat, Clara faced the precipice of transformation. Years of silence collided with the instinct to assert her identity. What had become her prison now stood before her as a potential power. She had always been more than just the maid, yet the label she wore had bound her in invisible chains. Yes, she breathed out, the admission practically bold. "I can help." Her voice trembled slightly, yet as it echoed in the grand hall, she realized her truth was no longer just an internal whisper. It had manifested into the world. Mr. Chun's expression shifted from skepticism to a hint of desperation. "Then please do so. We cannot afford to miscommunicate." Clara stepped forward, her heart racing, drowning out both fear and doubt. With every word she did need to translate, a different version of herself was emerging, a talented individual lurking behind the smokescreen of servitude. A timid flutter morphed into confident declarations as she swiftly processed the nuances, the gestures, and the considerations that bound the conversation. With Clara at the helm of the negotiation, the initial awkwardness dissipated. She navigated the complexities of the dialogue, each fluent exchange sharpening her sense of purpose. She was no longer an anchor tied beneath the surface. She was a vessel guiding the conversation with newfound empowerment. The initial skepticism among the delegates faltered. Clara carefully interpreted the nuances of their discussions, weaving together culture and language in a narrative that was finally her own. As the meeting progressed, Clara's confidence grew, yet the magnitude of her actions was not lost on her. Each successful exchange opened a door to who she could become, yet it also exposed the chasm that had long defined her existence. She was breaking free from the archetype she had inhabited, yet there was fear, too. What awaited her on the other side? "Clara," Lily said softly yet excitedly as the meeting reached a pivotal agreement, "you should consider this more than just a translation. You have a gift, a voice that needs to be heard." The understory of possibility lingered heavily as Clara realized she stood at the cusp of something profound. The warmth of acceptance beckoned her, tempting her to contemplate the future she might forge. What if I had the courage to embrace this talent fully? She wondered, reflecting on the sudden weight of her aspirations. Yet, with the negotiation solidifying, Clara couldn't shake an impending fear. If she stepped fully into this new role, what would her life look like? Would the risk of striding out of her hidden identity confirm her worth, or would it lead to unforeseen challenges? As she locked eyes with Mr. Chun, now glowing with gratitude, the questions circled her mind, an unsettling thrill brewing inside her. What if shattering the shackles of her past meant facing her greatest fear herself? The tension held its breath, foreshadowing greater revelations and conflicts yet to come. Clara sensed the anticipation swelling, hinting at the confrontation that lay ahead. Who would she face as the woman she intended to become? Clara stepped back from the table, the din of applause from the assembled delegates ringing in her ears like a distant echo. Mr. Chun's grateful smile painted a fresh layer of confidence onto her emerging identity, yet her heart beat fiercely against her ribcage, a constant reminder of the precarious edge she tiptoed upon. She had donned the mantle of a translator, but the truth was deeper. She was hovering on the brink of reinvention, a reality cloaked in uncertainty. The vibrancy of the hall surrounded her, but Clara felt like an outsider within it, the expanse between her past and this newfound role stretching limitlessly before her. It was exhilarating and terrifying, both a dizzying dance with potential and self-doubt. She had transformed from the invisible handmaid to a significant player, yet the gravity of that transformation felt almost too heavy to bear. "Clara, you did brilliantly," Lily exclaimed, breaking through Clara's swirling thoughts. The warmth in her voice, combined with the enthusiasm lighting her eyes, sent a trickle of appreciation through Clara's still fearful soul. Yet, even amid the praise, something gnawed at Clara. What was her place in this world of suits and strategies? Could she truly belong? While the echoes of success lingered, darker musings crept in. This single act of bravery could just as easily fracture her life rather than mend it. The moment of radical change had come, but so had the inertia of her past, looming heavily alongside each step she sought to take forward. What would be expected of her tomorrow? What obligations would she face as this new Clara? This Clara that somehow dared to dream beyond her imposed boundaries. Mr. Chun approached, the authority in his posture now tempered with gratitude. Clara, we would like you to join the project team for further discussions moving forward. Your insight would be invaluable. The invitation, though thrilling, sent waves of anxiety washing over her. Joining the team meant stepping into new roles, collaborating with some of the most powerful individuals in the room. I thank you, sir, she managed to stammer, the word yes hanging unspoken on her lips. Instead of committing to this opportunity directly, her mind raced through an array of self-doubts. Would they view her as a peer or simply a servant? Imposter syndrome wrapped around her throat, constricting her breath as she considered what joining such a team would require. Across the hall, Clara locked eyes with Lily, who observed her with thoughtful anticipation. The pressure of the moment surged as Clara contemplated the magnitude of her decisions. Would this chance allow her to stretch her abilities and reach her potential? Or would it leave her vulnerable and exposed, unprepared for the riptides of professional expectation? As the meeting dispersed and delegates began to filter out, Clara took a deep breath. The air filled with dense uncertainties, and she felt trapped in a paradox. The pursuit of greatness pressed against the knowledge of her past. Each step forward might demand she confront not only her fears but her family's legacy and the deep-rooted chains of expectation binding her. Her gaze drifted beyond the crowd to the towering windows, the city skyline illuminating dreams yet unrealized. Clara flinched as she pictured herself standing before the team, articulating ideas and challenges with conviction. The horizon stretched infinitely, yet a solid door still stood closed behind her. What she knew stifled her growth. Could she summon the courage to unlock it? Clara? Lily's question jolted her back to the moment. It was a simple call, yet it held the weight of both admiration and urgency. We need you to help us shape this project. Are you in? In that instant, Clara faced her next critical moment. Embrace the unknown for the promise it held, or retreat back into the shadows where her identity lingered safely static. As decision loomed, her heart thundered incessantly, echoing in her ears like a profound revelation waiting to unfold. The choice laid bare before her was simultaneously daunting and exhilarating. Could she embrace this possibility and step into the life of her dreams, risking everything she knew? The stakes had never felt higher, and Clara sensed the precipice of revelation drawing closer still. What would it take for her to say yes, or to step back, reclaiming the safety of anonymity at the cost of a future she yearned to seize? Maybe this is it, Clara murmured to herself as she felt the gravity of the moment encapsulate her entirely. Every doubt, every hope converging in a single pulse of determination. Would she finally face the challenge awaiting in the next chapter of her life? The future she envisioned beckoned, yet an invisible chain whispered caution into her ear. As she exhaled, Clara clenched her jaw, readying her voice for the confrontation ahead. The moment would shape her identity irrevocably, and she knew whatever choice she made would spell out the fate of the woman she aspired to become. What awaited her on this precipice would unfurl over the next threshold, drawing her ever closer to a destiny that both terrified and exhilarated her. Clara stood in the center of swirling possibilities, her thoughts grappling with the weight of inaction. The words "Are you in?" echoed around her, almost mocking in their simplicity. Seeking reassurance from within, she recalled the faces of her family, their expectations heavy on her shoulders. Was risking it all worth the chance to redefine herself? I'll do it, she finally managed, as if whispering a fragile secret into the universe, fearing the reverberation of her commitment. The moment she uttered those words, Clara felt an unfamiliar rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. Invigorating yet terrifying, she had taken the first step. Lily beamed, and a sincere flicker of pride sparked in her eyes. You won't regret this, Clara. This opportunity can change everything. As the celebratory vibes swirled around them, Clara couldn't dismiss the lioness of anxiety that prowled at the edges of her mind. She watched the others, the seasoned professionals, seamlessly navigating their conversations, laughter dancing effortlessly on their tongues. Her stomach churned at the thought of standing among them, that looming spectacle of scrutiny awaiting her debut. The next morning, filled with equal parts excitement and dread, Clara faced her reflection as she dressed. Each piece of clothing served as both armor and a reminder of her trepidations. A simple blouse and slacks transformed her from mere observer to a participant meant to command presence. Yet, inside, the gears of doubt whirred relentlessly. Was she ready to hold her own? Arriving at the meeting room, Clara felt an electric tension in the air. The expansive table was dotted with intimidating figures, executives, strategists, and innovators, all peers in this new realm. Mr. Chun initiated the discussion, his clear authority evident as he outlined their ambitious project. Clara listened intently, the initial flutters of anxiety fueled by fervor. An idea sparked within her, a possibility she dared to explore. Just then, Clara witnessed the expression on Mr. Chun's face shift as he asked for insights. The moment hung palpably in the air, ripe with unspoken expectations. Taking a breath that felt like an invitation to confront her fears, Clara raised her hand. Every heartbeat echoed like an affirmation. Here was her moment. Actually, I have an idea. To her astonishment, her voice trembled only slightly as she spoke. She detailed her proposal, weaving in her vision and insights gleaned from past experiences. Words flowed unexpectedly, a blend of apprehension and a nascent confidence carrying her through the dialogue. As she spoke, Clara began to notice subtle shifts in the room. Attentive nods and engaged expressions encouraged her to delve deeper into her thoughts. With each sentence, she stepped further into this new identity, crafting her professional narrative. The sensation of vulnerability ebbed closer to empowerment. She was not just a translator but an integral part of a larger conversation, a woman aligned with ambition. After her presentation, she allowed herself an infinitesimal glimpse of satisfaction, only to find herself confronted by Evelyn, one of the staunchest executives present. Interesting perspective, Evelyn commented, her tone crisp and assessing. But aren't you overstepping? We wouldn't want any miscommunication, would we? Clara's heart raced, a mix of defensiveness and disbelief swirling within her. This was the very opposition she feared, the challenge of proving her value amidst skepticism. A wave of self-doubt crashed over her. Was she truly prepared for this scrutiny, or had she ventured too far too quickly? Miscommunication isn't an option when we collaborate with a diverse team, Clara rebutted, her voice steadier than she felt. We all bring unique perspectives that can enhance outcomes. The undeniable flicker of conviction in her words surprised even her, bridging the gap between fear and tenacity. Evelyn's gaze clashed with Clara's, a silent battle of wills stretching taut between them. The room caught this tension that crackled like static energy. Clara realized this confrontation was crucial. It was no longer merely about proving her place but about owning her contribution. Caught in this respectful duel, Clara felt the intensity of her resolve coalesce. She was capable of challenging the status quo, even if it meant sifting through conflict to find her truth. The fear transformed into clarity. She was committed to both her development and to carving space for her voice. The meeting ended with strategic decisions that hung suspended in the balance of Clara's abilities. As she left the room, a potent mixture of elation and anxiety engulfed her. She had fought an invisible battle and walked away with a deeper understanding of herself. Her next steps were daunting, but as she gazed out at the city skyline, she felt the silhouette of determination taking shape. Every ounce of fear she had faced shone as a beacon, reflecting a profound realization. No victory came without overcoming its trials. The question loomed: what walls would she demolish next in her pursuit of authenticity? What challenges awaited that would test her newfound strength? The answers beckoned, wrapped in the uncertainty of a future still yet to unfold. With each passing day, the aftermath of the meeting echoed louder in Clara's mind. The room had been a battleground, where her ideas collided with a whirlwind of skepticism and ambition, leaving a lingering crackle of tension that had yet to dissipate. Although that initial thrust into engagement had ignited a spark within her, the lingering doubts about her capabilities dulled its brightness. Evelyn's scrutiny still loomed like a shadow, compelling Clara to evaluate not just her ideas but her entire approach to asserting herself in this unforgiving environment. Determined to harness this scrutiny, Clara devised a plan. She would immerse herself further into the intricacies of the project. Ignoring the gnawing doubts, she methodically gathered data, scrutinized every element of the project, and initiated conversations with her colleagues. The only way to earn respect, she reasoned, was through knowledge and preparedness. As the days turned into weeks, she witnessed her confidence swell alongside her expertise. Every lunch break spent poring over marketing strategies. Every conversation with colleagues about their insights began to feel less like a chore and more like a stepping stone. Clara could feel the dissonance of her earlier insecurities starting to recede, replaced by an emerging clarity. She was not just present in this space. She belonged in it. Yet, it wasn't just about improving her knowledge. Clara recognized that she needed allies, not just in the form of colleagues but in the realization of her influence within the team. With a newfound resolve, she reached out to others, sharing her thoughts and opinions, while encouraging open dialogue. Suddenly, her voice wasn't just about defense. It became a catalyst for collaboration. Clara encouraged her peers to contribute, finding strength in their varied perspectives. Slowly, their protective bubbles cracked open, leading to deeper exchanges. Then came the defining moment. During a critical meeting where project leaders discussed looming deadlines and budget constraints, Clara caught the eye of Mr. Chun, who nodded subtly, inviting her to share her thoughts. Clara took a breath, bolstered by the groundwork she'd laid and the connections she had forged. As she presented her analysis of potential cost-saving strategies, her confidence radiated through her words, electrifying the atmosphere in the room. It's essential to rethink not just our expenditures, but the potential of strategic partnerships, she proposed, blending the insights she had gleaned from her conversations. By leveraging joint resources, we can not only cut costs but also enhance our market outreach. Evelyn's face remained inscrutable as Clara spoke, but internal feedback revealed a noticeable shift in the dynamics of the room. Heads nodded in agreement, and Clara felt the palpable surge of camaraderie swirling around her in response. When the meeting concluded, applause surprised her. Her ideas had fostered an environment of engagement and trust. Despite the triumphant moments, the looming skepticism from Evelyn continued to gnaw at her confidence. At the next team gathering, they found themselves facing each other once more. This time, Evelyn probed deeper. While you present compelling strategies, can you back up your claims with data? Can you lead effectively? This was the moment Clara had anticipated, a confrontation with her doubts roiling beneath the surface. Instead of flinching, she met Evelyn's gaze with renewed conviction. I can lead by example. I may not have all the answers, but my commitment to this team and willingness to learn gives me the drive to explore beyond what's comfortable. Clara wasn't just defending herself this time. She was asserting her place as an emerging leader in her own right. As she stepped away from that encounter, a mix of anxiety and exhilaration enveloped her. The vulnerability she once viewed as a weakness morphed into a pillar of strength, building new layers of resilience. Each challenge pushed her further along the path of becoming the leader she aspired to be. Yet, beneath the surface of this victory, Clara sensed an impending storm. The trust she had cultivated, the progress she had made, could it be so easily dismantled by the disdainful gaze of an executive determined to uphold a competitive hierarchy? As week turned into a month, Clara's resolve strengthened her ambition. But she wondered, how could she sustain her growth and ensure her voice was not just heard but celebrated? The clock was ticking, and in the recesses of her mind, she considered her next gamble. What strategies would she devise to not only secure her standing but to redefine the expectations placed upon her? The next chapter of her journey awaited, thick with the anticipation of conflicts and victories not yet realized. Clara's determination shifted into overdrive as she prepared for the upcoming all-hands meeting. The lingering doubts whispered in her mind had calmed, replaced by a growing recognition of her potential. She had become something of a thought leader within her team, yet Evelyn's questioning lingered like a storm cloud. The challenge ahead now proved not just her ideas but her ability to lead. As she reviewed her notes, her fingers traced the outlines of her prepared statements about the project. But she knew the skeletal structure needed flesh, an anchor point that tied her beliefs to actionable results. Passion was essential, but without solid evidence to support her arguments, could she maintain respect? Clara decided to set a new precedent by introducing a data-driven approach to her presentations, one that would draw Evelyn and other skeptics into her narrative rather than provoke them. She gathered key metrics, industry benchmarks, and case studies demonstrating the efficacy of collaborative strategies she had championed. This wasn't merely a call to arms. It was a detailed roadmap charted by numbers that demanded respect. In preparing her presentation, Clara recalled conversations from her recent interactions. She had learned that each colleague had valuable insights, their perspectives could be a hidden treasure. So, she invited selected team members to share their experiences, weaving their stories into her presentation, thus amplifying their voices alongside her own. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, igniting her excitement while embedding a sense of collective ownership in the upcoming meeting. As the day approached, Clara dedicated evenings to rehearsing in front of the bathroom mirror, transforming an intimidating shepherding of ideas into a dance of confidence. Each practice run unfurled another layer of her intricacies. She shifted her gestures, refined her tone until it resonated, until vulnerability became an asset rather than a liability. When the day finally arrived, Clara stood in the conference room, her script at her fingertips. Yet she locked eyes with Evelyn, and in that moment, the room shrank. A myriad of emotions danced in the space between them, firing up the air with expectancy. Today, let us discuss innovative collaboration strategies that can redefine our approach. Clara began, her voice steady even if her heart raced beneath the surface. She framed her argument through the insights contributed by her colleagues, giving rise to a sense of inclusion that sparked interest among the attendees. She articulated how collaborative frameworks could minimize risks and broaden the horizons for their initiatives by amplifying the strengths of collective expertise. Evelyn listened, her expression a mask. And while Clara felt the tension radiating from her, the supportive nods of her teammates propelled her forward. Clara watched as instinctive smiles and even curious questions materialized. The momentum began to shift. But just as the room began to hum with enthusiasm, Evelyn cut in. While your strategies are commendable, how do you plan to evaluate their effectiveness as we move ahead? The question hung in the air, poised to either validate or cripple Clara's presentation. Clara inhaled deeply, channeling the resilience that had burgeoned within her throughout this journey. Monitoring progress through consistent KPIs aligned with our goals will ensure accountability. I would also advocate for bi-weekly checkpoints to foster an agile response system. The answer rang true to her intentions, and staying cool in the face of scrutiny showcased the leader she aspired to be. Evelyn appeared briefly taken aback, a crack in her armor. Clara continued, amplifying the dialogue with examples that demonstrated a willingness to pivot, learn, and adapt. This was a pivotal moment, not just for Clara but for the team steeped in anticipation of being a part of something unified. Yet, as the meeting wound down and applause echoed around her, Clara felt an odd sense of foreboding. Victory seemed bittersweet, overshadowed by the whirlwind of uncertainty Evelyn's presence brought. What would be the next move from her formidable opponent, one who had yet to relent in her assessments? As Clara stepped out, a deep breath stirred within her, a mixture of triumph and trepidation. In the battle for respect and recognition, she had narrowly crossed another threshold. But Evelyn wasn't done, and they both knew it. The struggle ahead could redefine everything she'd worked for. Thus, Clara was faced with a new dilemma. Could she turn this victory into lasting change, or would she struggle against the tide of resistance that Evelyn represented? The stage was set for a confrontation that threatened her hard-fought advancements. Clara spent the days following the all-hands meeting in a hazy state of reflection. The applause still echoed in her mind, but questions loomed larger than any accolades she had received. Evelyn's skeptical gaze persisted like an unwelcome specter. Was this success a fleeting moment or a tipping point? The answer depended on her next steps. Driven by a mix of elation and anxiety, she crafted a detailed plan to build on her initial success. This was no time to bask in accolades. She had to ensure her strategies didn't fizzle out. She allocated time every afternoon to reevaluate her KPIs, poring over the numbers and aligning them with her team's goals, determined to encapsulate her vision. Yet, there was an internal battle to face. Clara's confidence flourished in the limelight, but what if the shadow of doubt returned? What if her next initiative fell flat? The weight of her aspirations pressed heavily against her chest, reminding her how precarious the position of a leader could be. She needed to prep herself for whatever Evelyn might throw at her next. Over coffee breaks, Clara sought candid conversations with her teammates. She avoided the superficial chatter and delved deeper, probing their thoughts on her proposed collaborative strategies. Their insights ignited a spark, revealing hidden talents and capabilities within her group. One tech-savvy colleague mentioned tools that could enhance cooperation, while another shared experiences where failed projects became stepping stones to success. Clara scribbled notes fervently, stitching together a tapestry of collective wisdom. As the week progressed, Clara presented her refined plan in casual discussions with the team, each time garnering vital feedback. With every iteration, she felt her arguments solidifying. Not just her ideas, but the group's collective spirit began to manifest. Empowering her colleagues transformed her vision from an isolated aspiration into a shared mission. But Evelyn was still a question mark in this evolving narrative. Clara prepared herself mentally for their next encounter, expecting Evelyn to challenge her yet again. She visualized her questions, rehearsed confident responses, and crafted preemptive strategies to counter doubts that Evelyn might raise. On a chilly Thursday morning, as Clara entered the office, she felt a ripple of tension in the air. News had spread about her presentation success, yet it was accompanied by murmurs of Evelyn's rumored plans to introduce stricter performance standards. It was as if the atmosphere had thickened, each colleague carrying their own weight of uncertainty. The moment Clara stepped into the meeting room for their weekly sync, Evelyn's piercing gaze met hers, and Clara felt the familiar sense of scrutiny wash over her. She refused to let the anxiety seep into her composure. Evelyn opened the meeting with a pointed, "Clara, while your team seems energized, I see gaps in your last proposal. How will you address the slowdown I've observed in project timelines?" Clara recognized the skillful jab, aiming straight for the cracks in her confidence. "Evelyn, I appreciate your candor," she replied, maintaining steady eye contact. "I've taken into account the timelines and am proposing a weekly review system that allows us to identify bottlenecks proactively. With our newfound collaboration tools, we'll streamline communication to tackle these issues directly." Evelyn tilted her head, not quite dismissing Clara but clearly weighing her response against a backdrop of skepticism. The room crackled with anticipation, and Clara sensed the pivotal nature of this moment. As she spoke, a surprising realization dawned on her. The more Evelyn pushed back, the more fortified her resolve became. This wasn't merely about proving herself. It was about embracing leadership as a transformative experience for herself and her team. Clara was no longer merely a participant in her journey, she was shaping the narrative. But as the meeting continued, Clara caught a glimpse of Evelyn's lingering doubt, misplaced paper atop the table, bearing a stark red question mark. "Are we ready for success?" The provocative challenge hung heavy amid the soft chatter of her coworkers wrapping up the discussion. Clara held her ground, but as pulses quickened and emotions swirled, she couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation was just the beginning. Change was in the air, but so was uncertainty. Clara found herself at a crossroads, where her ability to lead would be put to the ultimate test. Could she transform the shadows of doubt into pillars of strength, or would they remain unyielding obstacles? Only time would tell, and Clara sensed that the next confrontation with Evelyn could either fracture her newfound confidence or catapult her forward into a position of true leadership. Would she be brave enough to harness the turbulence into an opportunity for growth? The stakes had never been higher, The week following the meeting stretched long, punctuated by moments of self-doubt and bursts of inspiration. Clara knew she had to remain vigilant. The resolve she had felt in the heat of her confrontation with Evelyn needed nurturing. With each tick of the clock, it became increasingly clear that growth was not linear. Clara began experimenting with her proposed weekly review system, conducting informal check-ins with her team. These sessions evolved organically, morphing from simple status updates to rich discussions about challenges and innovative solutions. Each conversation felt like stepping stones, leading further away from the uncertain terrain of doubts and into the firm ground of purpose. Colleagues began to engage more, and their enthusiasm brewed a unity that Clara hadn't anticipated. One afternoon, while reviewing project indicators, Clara stumbled upon a notable trend. The data highlighted an unexpected spike in engagement during the discussions surrounding their collaborative tools. It struck her like a bolt of lightning. Fostering dialogue fueled their productivity. It wasn't just about the tools themselves but the connections they were fostering within the team. A spark of creative thought flared up within Clara, prompting her to devise a workshop that could harness that energy. She envisioned an environment where everyone was encouraged to step out of their comfort zones. With a mix of excitement and dread, she proposed the idea to the team, restoring some of the uncertainty from the previous week in her heart. Would they embrace this additional challenge? But as she spoke, she noticed their eyes light up, their heads nodding enthusiastically. Clara felt something within her shift. The fear started transforming into an exhilarating anticipation. As the days melted into the workshop date, Clara invested her time into preparations, curating an agenda that encouraged both fun and accountability. She envisioned icebreakers that would foster collaboration and exercises targeting their individual skills, allowing each member to shine. The focus shifted away from her need for validation to a greater purpose empowering her team. On the day of the workshop, an electric buzz filled the room. Clara felt the weight of their eager expectations as she kicked off the event. She was no longer just a participant in her leadership journey. Her role had evolved into a facilitator of collective growth. The icebreakers dissolved barriers, and Clara watched in awe as her team shared their ideas, revealing hidden talents previously shrouded by workplace norms. However, in that atmosphere of openness, she spotted Evelyn lingering at the door, a silent observer with an inscrutable expression. Clara swallowed hard, a wave of apprehension brushing over her. Would Evelyn appreciate the initiative? Or would she see it as another opportunity to challenge Clara's authority? The thought of a critical evaluation hung heavy in the air even as laughter echoed around her. During the breakout sessions, they encountered a few conflicts arising from differing opinions or unyielding reluctance to embrace change. Clara realized these hurdles were not setbacks but vital moments of truth for her leadership. Each challenge became a platform for her to practice the adaptive strategies she'd been cultivating. As Clara coached her team through disagreements, she felt her own confidence swell, firmly securing the space for collaborative dialogue. After the workshop, Clara was left buzzing with adrenaline, but the tension spun tighter with Evelyn's looming presence in her mind. She could sense the question mark lingering over her initiatives. Would they sustain momentum? She had embraced significant challenges, but the next immediate confrontation with Evelyn felt inevitable and imminent. The final weeks of the quarter were approaching. Clara knew she had fortified her team and refocused their goals. Yet Evelyn's shadow remained a looming force. Clara was not naive. She understood that success was often a double-edged sword. Would her boldness in fostering engagement be viewed as a triumph or a risk worth criticizing? With the endgame drawing closer, a different kind of uncertainty seethed within her. Clara's journey had unfurled in unexpected ways, revealing strengths she hadn't recognized. But as she stood on the precipice of deeper challenges, she realized that the evolving narrative was far from over. Had she truly found herself as a leader, or was she just beginning to scratch the surface? The question nestled in her mind, overshadowing the thrill of success. Clara braced herself for the next pivotal moment, aware that with every trial came the possibility of her ultimate test. Confronting Evelyn yet again, her greatest critic and, perhaps, her greatest teacher. The following days found Clara caught in a whirlwind of reflection. The workshop had been a catalyst for change, yet the unsettling nature of Evelyn's indifference refused to dissipate. Each conversation with her team reinforced their bond, but Clara felt an underlying tension, like a finely tuned string ready to snap. She reasoned it would only take one negative comment from Evelyn to unravel the momentum she had worked so hard to create. As the quarter's end approached, Clara resolved to prepare for their scheduled performance review with Eve. She emerged from her thoughts and focused. If she could somehow anticipate Evelyn's critiques, she could counter them with data and confidence. With renewed resolve, Clara delved into analytical reports and team feedback, weaving a narrative that highlighted their achievements and growth. She practiced delivering these points with clarity, envisioning the review room and the way she would present herself a leader unfazed. The day arrived, and Clara stepped into the meeting room, armed with spreadsheets and a measured demeanor. The atmosphere inside was charged. Her team was present, their collective determination buoying her spirits. Evelyn sat at the head of the table, her cool gaze assessing. Clara felt the weight of those eyes and the familiar sting of judgment. "Let us not waste time," Evelyn began, her voice sharp. "I want to know how you justify the energy and resources spent on these workshops. Show me the metrics, Clara." Clara met her gaze with steady resolve. "Evelyn, the metrics I've compiled show a 30% increase in team engagement and a significant uptick in project turnaround time. Beyond that, we've cultivated a sense of collaboration that was previously lacking." Evelyn's eyebrow rose, an unspoken challenge in her expression. Engagement is one thing, but how do you quantify cohesion? The question hung over Clara like a specter, taunting her ability to prove her worth. "Cohesion can be measured through qualitative feedback," Clara countered. "Surveys from the team indicate a stronger sense of belonging. They feel invested in their tasks, which translates into better outcomes." Evelyn leaned back, arms crossed. "And yet, you are still relatively new to this leadership position. Can you sustain this enthusiasm? What's your plan for when the novelty wears off?" Clara felt her heart rate spike. Did Evelyn want her to falter? This did not feel like a genuine inquiry, but rather a setup for criticism. Her instinct was to recoil, but Clara steadied herself, aware that this was a moment to either sink or swim. "If my leadership has taught me anything, it's that adaptability is crucial. I've initiated continued team development workshops and creative problem-solving sessions. We will maintain this momentum together." Evelyn's eyes narrowed slightly, as if sizing Clara up. "And if your team fails at some point, what will that mean for you as a leader?" Clara's mind raced. The stakes Evelyn was ruminating on were high. Failure was part of any growth process. She knew that, yet admitting it was another matter. It felt like a trap, a chance for Evelyn to showcase her superiority. But Clara was done feeling small. She had faced her team's setbacks and transformed them into learning experiences. "Failure is a reality, Evelyn, but it's also a teacher. We'll address setbacks together and learn from them as a cohesive unit." A flicker of respect crossed Evelyn's face, but it quickly morphed into contemplation. The tension in the room thickened. Clara could feel her team's gaze glued to her, eyes wide with curiosity and apprehension. Their faith in her hinged on her next words. "Very well," Evelyn said at last, a trace of grudging admiration creeping into her tone. "This is just a quarter, Clara. There will be challenges ahead, and you will need to prove yourself repeatedly." Clara nodded, understanding the nature of the challenge before her. This exchange had been more than a performance review. It was a crucible testing her steel. As Clara left the meeting, her spirit felt oddly buoyant. She had articulated her vision and stood firm against critique. Yet, the shadows of uncertainty still loomed large. What would be the next test of her leadership? How would she balance her team's needs against Evelyn's expectations? The battle was far from over. Change was constant, and it was those uncertain moments that would define her journey. Clara knew she had found her voice, but she also sensed the real challenge awaited just beyond the horizon, ready to strike when she least expected it. As the new quarter unfolded, Clara faced the mounting pressure of delivering results beyond her prior achievements. The shadows of her earlier self-doubt lingered, but an unwavering determination fueled her forward. The confrontation with Evelyn had been a catalyst, igniting her confidence. Yet new challenges loomed, challenges that demanded not only her courage but strategic foresight as well. Each morning, Clara harnessed the lessons learned from her interactions with both the team and Evelyn. She galvanized her colleagues into a tightly knit support system, where vulnerability transformed into collective strength. Daily discussions delved into potential hurdles, brainstorming ideas for overcoming obstacles before they even surfaced. The inherent uncertainty of their work remained, but Clara infused a sense of preparedness into the environment, making them adaptable. At the upcoming project milestone review meeting, Clara understood the stakes. This would be a pivotal moment, an opportunity to showcase not just the outcomes of their efforts, but the unwavering resilience they had cultivated as a team. Weeks of collaboration had led to measurable growth in both project delivery and team effectiveness. She felt ready, not merely as a participant, but as a leader channeling her team's collective talent. On the day of the review, the aura in the conference room buzzed with anticipation. Clara exuded a calm confidence, her well-prepared notes at her fingertips. Mr. Chun presided over the meeting, eager to hear feedback from their recent collaborative initiative. As each member presented, Clara's heart quickened, but she remained focused on the overall narrative they had crafted together. When her turn came, Clara stood before them, a picture of poise. Our aim was not just to meet benchmarks but to reinvigorate the sense of belonging within the team. Through innovative strategies workshops designed to enhance engagement and our weekly review system, we have increased our efficiency by 40%. As she spoke, Clara watched Lily, her trusted ally, nodding enthusiastically, mirroring the pride her team felt internally. Clara continued weaving the narrative, punctuating her points with tangible data, charting the trajectory of their progress. Yet, just as she reached the climax of her presentation, she sensed Evelyn's scrutinizing gaze piercing through her confidence. "But can you guarantee sustained results, Clara?" Evelyn interjected, her tone as sharp as ever. "Numbers fluctuate. What you're presenting today is an initial success but does not promise future viability." The response chilled the atmosphere. Clara felt her breath catch but quickly gathered her thoughts. This was the moment she had envisioned, where her ability to pivot would shine. "Evelyn, while metrics are crucial, we are not merely numbers. We are individuals working towards a shared vision. Our recent results are the consequence of a collaborative culture, and we are committed to maintaining this momentum." A slight murmur of support rippled through the room. Clara felt invigorated by her team's silent encouragement. She pressed on with confidence, outlining their plans to foster continued engagement and adaptability. "Part of our success lies in embracing feedback. Weekly checkpoints will ensure we remain agile and responsive. We are not building a facade of success. We are cultivating a sustainable vision for the future." Evelyn remained steely-eyed but appeared momentarily taken back. Clara could see her reflection in the wall of glass. Her journey flashed before her, every triumph, every setback melding into one narrative of growth. As the meeting concluded, Clara absorbed the palpable shift in the air. It wasn't their project metrics that had earned her respect this time. It was her unwavering conviction and adaptability. She had transformed perceived vulnerabilities into pillars of strength, showcasing her evolution from an overlooked maid to a recognized leader. In the days that followed, Clara reveled in the accolades alongside her team, yet she remained acutely aware of the next challenge that awaited her. Evelyn's next move might still threaten their progress, but Clara felt equipped to embrace that uncertainty. Weeks later, Clara received an unexpected message from Mr. Chun. He wanted to discuss a leadership role within the company, alongside a project that had been lacking direction. The invitation sent ripples of joy coursing through her. It was an acknowledgement of her hard work, her transformation into a confident professional. Clara stepped into that conversation, armed with her experience, prepared to face another challenge. This was no longer about proving herself but about evolving the narrative to inspire future leaders. The time had come to foster a culture of empowerment and inclusion. Reflecting back, Clara understood the profound truth behind her journey. Each struggle had catalyzed her growth, proving that challenges were not shackles but stepping stones toward profound self-realization. Embracing change, she forged ahead into her future not simply as an individual overcoming her past, but as a pioneering leader guiding others towards their potential. With solid confidence, Clara received Mr. Chan's offer, and she accepted it with resolute clarity. She had conquered her fears, demonstrated her capability, and recognized her worth. Next was to inspire a new wave of transformation that would resound well beyond her own achievements. Clara was ready not just to lead herself, but others towards greatness. To those watching this incredible journey unfold, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this platform of overcoming greatness. You need to show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about Clara's transformation and the journey ahead. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to inspire them to overcome their own obstacles.